Hello and welcome back to the channel, and as you can tell by the title, I'm going to be talking about a show that I loved that I never really talked about that just finished airing on Thursday, and that is Young Sheldon. And I'm going to be talking about how the finale broke me. Um, so yeah, it's taken me until today to actually want to film this video because I was going to do it yesterday when I watched the last two episodes, finale, funeral and memoir, but I was that emotionally drained from it that I needed time to process. So yeah, here's why this episode broke me. So we'll start with episode 12 actually. I knew so this is all based around the fact that Sheldon's father died. And so we see that happen in episode 12, and then of course we see the after effects leading into the Big Bang Theory. So I've always been a Big Bang Theory fan as well as a Young Sheldon fan when it started airing. I've been a fan since day one back in 2017. And I, even from season one, from the get go, I was saying Young Sheldon was a better series than Big Bang Theory. And it's actually gone to the point now where people they just know Young Sheldon, they don't know about the Big Bang Theory. Um, and that's because, it exploded on TikTok during the pandemic. And it exploded in popularity over on there. The same with um, South Park that exploded on there, and Steven Universe is another one that got a resurgence in popularity thanks to clips being re-uploaded on TikTok. So I've been watching the show every episode, every season, never missed a day. And so we obviously knew when this got announced that season 7 was going to be the final season, that meant that we were going to have to see George Cooper's death. But we knew it was coming, essentially. And so it wasn't stated when it was going to happen, but it happened in episode 12. And the scene where it happened prior to it, I knew it was coming. And so yeah, that got me because I lost my mother at 19 back in 2017. And so a lot of the stuff that happened to Sheldon in this resonated with me. So when they're waiting for George to come back to go do this blue bonnet picture, that's when the principal and his other coach friend Wayne shows up and informs him that George had a heart attack whilst at work and he didn't make it. And I've seen a lot of criticism about how Sheldon reacted in this, and this is why I actually really wanted to make this episode, this review, to actually talk about my experiences of how I lost my mother and how I acted, because I definitely acted the same way that both Sheldon and Georgie acted in this. You see, I lost my mother on the 3rd of November of 2017. I remember it well. Uh, she'd been in hospital for a few months on dialysis. They couldn't get things right for that. They finally figured out a way. And so there was some complications, and I remember getting the phone call about that, and then the drive up to Dublin because that's where she was. She was in one of those hospitals up there, and we hadn't even hit the toll when we got the phone call that she died. And because I remember it well, I was listening to music, um, and I somewhat overheard it, and I asked what had happened because I wasn't sure if what I heard was correct, and that's when my uncle told reached back and held my hand and confirmed that she didn't make it. Um, yeah, what had happened was she was brought down for dialysis. Things were looking up, and she went on it for a half hour and then passed out. And then complications happened, and she died. Uh, so when Sheldon got the news that his father died, and the way he acted by sitting back in the chair, that's how I. If it wasn't for the fact that I was already in a moving vehicle, that's how I would have reacted. Because that's something that people don't realize. In that I seen on both Reddit and TikTok, and it was something that they definitely made mention in the episode funeral. Um, that people deal with grief in different ways. I dealt with it in a different way. As I said, I dealt with it the same way Sheldon did. Throughout the episode 12 and episode 13. Um, that's that's how I dealt with it, and yeah. So so episode 12, when that happened, that I was an emotional wreck because it was bringing back all these feelings from when that happened for me, and the same thing happened with funeral. Sheldon was going over all these different ways that he was going, things that he could have said to his dad. I was the same because growing up, I definitely spend time with my mother, but there was also times where I spent a whole lot of my time in this bedroom for hours upon time. And the only time she would really see me is if I went down for food or to get a drink, or if she called me down to help her with something. Um, the rest of the time I was in this room. And during the funeral, during the memoir part of it, where future Sheldon talks about how the thing that he wanted to say, where he got up and he's talking about that he's been thinking about these different possibilities, what he could have said to his dad, which we do see in that episode. I think about the same, because the night before my mother died, I was on the phone with her rather briefly just before I went to bed, and I had the urge to tell her that I loved her, and I didn't, and that is a regret that I have to this day. I know that she knew that I loved her, and I know that she loved me, but I I wish that I got to say it to her one final time, and to hear her say it to me. Um, so that is a regret that I do have. Um, so yeah, the main reason why I'm making this video is to talk about my experience, but also to say that to the young Sheldon fans that um were like saying mean things about the Sheldon character, not so much about Ian Armitage, the actor who plays Sheldon. Um, the whole point of Funeral was people deal with grief in different ways, and we do see that. We see Mary dive headfirst back into religion. We see Georgie step up because he has to be the man now. Sheldon is going off to Caltech. He has to be there for his sister, his mother, his wife, and his baby, as well as his grandmother. He has to step up and do that. And that was something that I even said to myself um, on the car ride up to the hospital. I kept saying to myself, I need to be strong and I need to be brave. So that's a parallel that I had with Georgie there. Um, so yeah, people deal with grief in different ways, and that is how I dealt with it. And it was I blocked out most of that weekend. Even the funeral, I blocked out a lot of that stuff, um, and I will come to terms with that eventually. But yeah, those two episodes broke me. Memoir not so much because it was wrapping up and it kind of ended anticlimactically, in my opinion. But I still loved the show and I loved all the characters, and yeah, I just wanted to make this video to, as I said, to talk about my experiences with that. So yeah, thank you all for watching. If you do end up seeing this, there you go. I guess I'll see you all on the next upload.